and welcome to A Spirited Debate. I'm Lauren Green. Well, this weekend, Pope Francis travels to Fatima, Portugal, to celebrate the 100th anniversary of a mysterious apparition that appeared there to three village children. And the children believe the apparition to be the Virgin Mary, the mother of Jesus. The two youngest children, Jacinta and Francisco, will be made saints this weekend. The miracle of Our Lady of Fatima, as it's called, also came with three secrets the apparition told the children in 1917 about the two world wars, the fall of communist Russia, and a third secret which was more recently revealed to be the assassination attempt on Pope John Paul II. But there's more that's being uncovered about Fatima, and here to talk about his new findings is Dr. Paul Kengor. He's author of A Pope and a President, John Paul II, Ronald Reagan, and the Extraordinary Untold Story of the 20th Century. Welcome, Dr. Kengor.
Hi, Lauren. Thank you very much.
You know, I want to get to your book, but I want to first just talk about what happened in Fatima 100 years ago and explain what happened and why was it so controversial.
Well, it's an amazing thing, truly. I mean, some people consider it literally miraculous. And by the way, thank you for covering this, because right now, the 100th anniversary of it, you have literally countless people from all over the world, many of them in America, descending on this tiny little village in Portugal, and the entirety of the Western media or American media is ignoring it. But they're going there because they believe that from May 13th, 1917 to October 13th, 1917, this will be a period of about 6 consecutive months, that the literal mother of Jesus, Mary, appeared to these three shepherd children in Portugal. And at the end of it, I mean, there were a number of dramatic appearances. So May 13th, 1917 would have been the first. But July 13th, 1917 was one of the more major alleged apparitions where she divulged the three secrets, was said to have given the children a vision of hell. And then the most dramatic of all was October 13th, 1917, when it was claimed, and this is an actual miracle proved and investigated by the Roman Catholic Church, something occurred called the miracle of the sun, where those who were there, and upwards of 70,000 people, including many secular people, many skeptics, claimed that they saw the sun spin, dance, do something very supernatural, and you know that was the final of the apparitions.
Very interesting too, because you know, the Catholic Church was actually quite hesitant to believe the children. Why? And then why did the Church eventually affirm it as a miracle?
Yeah, and that's a very important point. I mean, there are claims of Marian apparitions all the time. I mean, there have been quite literally hundreds of them in the 20th century alone. But the Church is incredibly careful about this. And Cardinal Bertone, who was the Vatican Secretary of State under John Paul II, who was one of the people who took some of the greatest lengths and steps to approve this, said that, he said, you got to understand, Fatima has been microscopically scrutinized. He said, you know, of all the claims, this is the one that has been taken the most seriously, looked at the most thoroughly, and I think it comes down to, among other things, they had so many witnesses. And in addition to that, I mean, 2 of the 3 shepherd children, Jacinta and Francisco, died very early, I think within 2 or 3 years of the original apparitions. But Lucia lived until February 2005. She was, I believe, 97 years old when she died. And she became a nun at a convent in Portugal, and they were in constant communication with her until the very end of her life. And all along she was saying, yes, this has happened, no, that hasn't happened, yes, this has been fulfilled. So they were able to check out her claims literally over about a 90-year period. Wow.
You know, what you just mentioned, you know, that Lucia, the oldest, became a nun, and she died in 2005, and the 2 youngest died in childhood, and they will be canonized. Now, the idea of canonizing children, is this unusual for children to be made saints?
Yes. Yeah, it is. It is very unusual. And, I mean, the only reason that Lucia maybe hasn't gotten to that point is because she did die fairly recently, a little over 10 years ago. And in her case, I mean, there has to be, you go through a process of being declared blessed by the Church, of having a certain number of miracles occur. But with, yeah, in their case, it's very, very unusual.
You know, you wrote this book. Now, what did your research uncover about the third Fatima secret, the assassination attempt on John Paul II? What does your research say?
Well, I think this is fascinating. And John Paul II was shot on May 13th, 1981. So he was shot on the official feast day of Our Lady of Fatima, the anniversary of the date when she was said to have first appeared, May 13th, 1917. And he right away connected those dates. And he said to himself, 2/13ths of May, and it stood right out to him. And this was very much a Marian pope, somebody whose papal motto was totus tuus, which in Latin means totally yours. He had dedicated his papacy to Mary. You know, Mary would be his principal intercessor to Jesus. So he was already very committed to Mary. And it was when he was recovering from the shooting in Gemelli Clinic in Rome, and the exact date on this, Lauren, it was July 18th, 1981. He requested that the third secret of Fatima, which had literally been sealed in a vault or whatever at the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith at the Vatican, he requested that it be brought to him. He wanted to read it. I think previously 3 popes had read it, maybe 4. He had not read it yet, even though he came in October 1978. Yeah. And they brought him 2 copies of it. They brought him the original Portuguese text and another copy, and he read this. And in that prediction, where a bishop in white, there's only one bishop in white in the Catholic Church, it's the Pope, appears to fall in a volley of gunfire, arrows. This is an attack, an assassination attempt. He looked at that and he believed that that vision was him.
And the bullet now that was part of that assassination attempt is actually in a shrine at Fatima right now. Is that true?
Well, and get this, the way it got there was on the anniversary of the shooting, May 13th, 1982, John Paul II went to Fatima. He was initially planning a major trip to Poland, but he instead went to Fatima to thank the Blessed Mother for, he believed, helping to spare his life. And he took the bullet and he placed it in the crown of the statue of Our Lady of Fatima.
Wow.
So that's how it got there.
You know, there's so much more we could talk about because you want to bring in the whole Ronald Reagan issue, and there's so many things, but I want, we've run out of time. I want to thank you so much, Dr. Kengor. And I want to give people the name of your book. Your book is called The Pope and the President, John Paul II, Ronald Reagan, and the Extraordinary Untold Story of the 20th Century. I want to thank you so much for being on A Spirited Debate.
Oh, and I thank you for covering this. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And I'm Lauren Green. Thank you very much for watching.